This is Jonathan Yates. Thank you for joining us for the Culture of Sports. Today we're going to talk about that with Delegate Robert Flanagan. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good to be here.
I guess the overall question is, you were an all-New England guard at Harvard, served as Secretary under Transportation under Governor Ehrlich. You now represent Howard County, which is a sports powerhouse. Why don't you think Maryland gets its due for sports? When you look at it, PG County alone sends more players to the NBA and the NFL than anywhere else in the world. But whenever you talk sports, it's always Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Well, it is a problem. Number one, we're a small state. But the other thing is we're good at so many other things, too. So, we got a lot of smart kids. We got kids that are great scholastically. So maybe we don't do enough to, express our pride in all the kids that are great athletes.
Now, when you went and played at Harvard, did you notice a huge difference in the quality of ball from playing at Gonzaga?
No, I mean, when I played at Gonzaga, we were really played excellent football. The Catholic League was very, very strong.
Yes.
So stepping up to the Ivy League was not a problem.
And so, in terms of Howard County sports, which schools there are the most dominant? We all know about Wild Lake, River Hill, the others. Who rules?
Yeah, River Hill has always been dominant. Mount Hebron, Howard has had great teams, and Centennial has a great basketball team.
So what do you think is in the special mix in Maryland? It turns out such strong high school sports, both male and female, ranging from basketball powerhouses like DeMatha and Dunbar to football powerhouses like Arundel, Gilman, lacrosse powerhouses, Severna Park, wrestling powerhouses like St. Joe. What do you think is the secret sauce in the state that creates that?
Well, these young people are very competitive, and so they find something that's important to them. They find a sport that really means a lot to them, and so they bear down and they become excellent at it. And certainly the opportunity for women here is we want women to have that opportunity, and they've really taken advantage of it in many cases. We have some tremendous women's teams.
Now, you played in the pre-Title IX days, so what have you seen the impact of Title IX?
Oh, well, it's incredible. There really was not much opportunity for women to play sports. It was a shame. In fact, when I was in law school in the Law Review, I wrote an article about that, but I couldn't figure out Title IX. I mean, it hadn't been invented yet, and so I knew there was a need. I knew that something should be done. And it was done, and it's really made all the difference.
And what have you seen the impact now on female athletes, your constituents, the ones working up here, the ones running for office themselves? In the Evening Capital this week, there was an article that a record number of more than 50 women were running for office in Anne Arundel County alone.
Well, I think athletics is an opportunity to learn a lot of things about yourself and learn a lot about teamwork, working with people. And the work ethic, and for those kids that are drawn to that, I think it's a great opportunity. So that ought to be afforded to women equally with men, and I think we're doing that, and we can always do better, but I'm proud of the changes that have occurred.
Now, does it surprise you at all, the Ernst & Young study that found out that of the females in C-level offices, 80% had played sports in high school or college?
Not at all. I mean, that's it is a great experience, and I'm glad that that's the result. That's the kind of result we want.
Now, let's take terms of another great experience you had, serving on a missile sub. A friend of mine who I grew up playing sports with, he went to the Naval Academy, and then he went to the Marines, and he said that no matter what happened to him in plebe summer, no matter what happened to him in the Crucible with the Marines or anything else, he just thought to himself, I got through double sessions in high school at Arundel under Coach Buddy Heffer. I can do anything. Did you find yourself drawing on that same reserve when you were serving on subs?
Sure. I think when you're a young teen and you're subjected to that sort of challenge, rigor, physical challenge, but it's more than a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge. You're able to look back and say, I went through that, I was able to accomplish despite that adversity. And so it's part of character building it's an opportunity for young people.
And so what was it like the first time when you went down on that sub?
It was tougher getting through the program and being qualified to get on that sub.
Did you meet with Admiral Rickover?
I did meet with Admiral Rickover, and like many applicants, I got kicked out of his office.
Can you tell us that
I got
story?
grilled.
Is the language suitable for the show?
The language is probably suitable, but he really challenged me and didn't really care for my answer. I think actually he did ask me, why I spent my time playing football, and my answer was that you get a lot out of college and your education in addition to your studies. And he didn't really care for the answer. I did get accepted in the program,
yes,
by the
well,
way.
Obviously, did very well. Earned your Dolphins.
But that was sort of part of his grilling. He didn't really care for sports. I don't think he appreciated sports. He was competitive in his own way, and so maybe when I met with him and was in his program, I knew that I could compete on my terms. He had his terms of competition, but we were able to. I was able to get through the program, and I did admire him.
So let me ask you a question. We're right across the street from St. John's College, one of the premier philosophy colleges in the United States, where the curriculum is based around studying the great books. Aristotle said that when we're playing sports is when we're closest to contemplation, which is the highest form of human activity. Did you feel the same way when you were playing? You certainly succeeded at every level. Harvard, all New England, Law Review at Cornell. So something was clicking for you. Did you feel that sports was a major part of that?
Well, I can't say that I was thinking about Plato during summer practice or even in some of the great games that I had an opportunity to play in. But I will say that it was a profound experience. Mm-hmm. It's one that I look back on, and when I get back together with either my high school or my college friends, there is a bond there, and it's an unspoken bond, but we know what we went through together, and it gives us great satisfaction to remember that.
Now, a huge part of the culture of sports in Maryland is the Chesapeake Bay. You've got the boating, the fishing, the swimming, all the activities that make the Bay the jewel that it is. You were Secretary of Transportation. What was that like with the Bay, dealing with those bridges every summer?
Well, that was pretty rough because Governor Ehrlich was a tough taskmaster and wanted us to be operating the Chesapeake Bay Bridge to maximum efficiency. And we worked very hard to reduce the backups. I mean, anyone who gets on the bridge during those summer months knows that they occur. But we always did our very best to make sure that we move traffic in the best possible way. Now, I'm also on the Environment and Transportation Committee, and of course we work very hard to promote the Chesapeake Bay and make it as clean and really make sure that it thrives. And we've made a lot of progress, and that's another area where we compete against ourselves, really.
Yes.
But we're making a lot of improvement under Governor Hogan and this General Assembly, and we're very proud of that. Now,
Delegate Mosby, who we interviewed previously, he was proud of a program he had in Baltimore City, where if just one person picked up one piece of litter a day, the huge impact that would have on cleaning up the city and cleaning up the Bay and the rest of the state through the litter abatement. What program have you been most proud of that you did as either Secretary of Transportation under Governor Ehrlich or as a member of the General Assembly in helping the Bay?
Well, I think that the oysters are really an opportunity to promote a cleaner bay. Right now, we have a study that will analyze what the oyster harvest should be. But oysters actually are this very incredible natural cleaning machine, and we're promoting them. We have millions and millions of oysters that we're adding as we go along, and so I think that's an area where we can make tremendous progress.
Now, when I worked for 3 members from Maryland on Capitol Hill, and we always said that Anne Arundel County had more miles of shoreline than anywhere else in the world. Nobody challenged us. It's just one of those things you say when you say in politics.
No, I think it's true, actually, yeah.
I always wondered about that when you looked at the fjords in Norway and stuff, but, like I said, let them worry about that in Oslo. We're in Annapolis right now. How much of the boating and things like that took up your time as Secretary of Transportation?
Well, a big part of my time as Secretary of Transportation was the environment, and it related to the Maryland Port Authority. The Maryland Port Authority is in charge of dredging, okay? But part and parcel of the dredging is making sure that we have projects to promote a cleaner bay. And so bay restoration projects were part of our mission, and we paid a lot of attention and put a lot of effort into that.
What were the successes you had?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the island
Sure.
that we built, so hopefully you can deal with that.
So when you drive across that Bay Bridge and see how beautiful the bay is, do you feel special pride that you did that for all Marylanders?
It gives me great pride whenever I drive across the bridge. Number one, it is a beautiful sight. Number two, the bay is something that everybody can enjoy, and it is getting cleaner and better. We're making such tremendous strides in improving the bay as a habitat.
Now, were you able to do much for Western Maryland in the beautiful country out there when you were Secretary of Transportation? There's loads of outdoor activities out there too.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We had a trail that went actually over the Appalachian from Pittsburgh to Georgetown, Washington, D.C.
Okay, sure.
And we completed that trail during the Ehrlich administration. So it is, since then, it has gotten extensive use. It has improved the economy because there have been a lot of bed and breakfasts and other ancillary businesses that have grown up around that hiker-biker activity.
Now, has it surprised you how much more environmentally conscious high school students and college students are today?
I think that's great. Yeah, we see it. They have projects during their high school. The Scouts have projects. We support all of them and really encourage them to work on that.
I grew up in Anne Arundel County. You're from Howard County. I think most people would be stunned to find out how strong the equestrian community is in Maryland. Have you dealt with that much as a member of the General Assembly or Secretary of Transportation?
Well, I know that that's very important. I haven't had direct dealings with them.
Sure.
If they want to invite me to one of their events, I'd love to go. But I know that the jousting is the state sport.
Yes.
And they're very proud of it. I'm very proud of what they do, and I'm glad they enjoy it.
Is there anything that you've dealt with when you were Secretary of Transportation in the General Assembly regarding the culture of sports in Maryland that would surprise us? No one would think that jousting was a state sport here with how prominent lacrosse is.
Yeah, well, I actually was a little confused at one point, thinking that lacrosse should be the state sport.
Yes.
But then I discovered how strong the jousting advocates were, and I respect that. But yeah, I think we're all very proud of the lacrosse teams that we produce here, the lacrosse players. The really, there's no comparison with the strong lacrosse teams that we produce.
No, there's nothing that's going to compare with Maryland in lacrosse, that's for sure, among other things. In terms of your career, what's it like serving in the General Assembly now after being a lawyer with a great firm, being Secretary of Transportation? Have you found it rewarding here to be in the minority?
Well, as long as we have a Republican governor, I think there's some balance here. Of course, in the House of Delegates, we have 91 Democrats and 50 Republicans. So what is that? About 2 to 1,
yes.
and it's about 2 to 1 in the Senate. And so they need us. They need us to help them balance. Mm-hmm. They need Governor Hogan to help them balance, and I think it's happening. I think we're reaching across the aisle. We're working together, and we're doing pretty good work. It's not like Washington D.C. Mm-hmm. I mean, I talk to my constituents, and they're just so disheartened by what they see in Washington D.C., the federal government, the Congress, presidency. It just doesn't seem to be working well. But I encourage them, look to Annapolis, look to the great work that Governor Hogan is doing, the General Assembly is doing, the partnership that we have from being more fiscally prudent and being more conserved about the environment, public safety, education.
Yes.
All those things are priorities, and we're doing very practical, pragmatic problem solving.
Now, when you came to the General Assembly, were you surprised to find that there were so many great athletes here? Speaker Bush is, the leading rusher in Temple history. He was the Rhodes Trophy winner at Anne Arundel County for being the best football player here. Jay Walker, he played in the pros, Madden, others. Did that surprise you?
Well, I'll tell you what my experience was. I went to the House of Delegates in 1987. I was on the Judiciary Committee. I was on the same committee as to be Governor Bob Ehrlich and to be Speaker Mike Bush. So I had two really incredible athletes there.
Both who were college football stars. Ehrlich was a linebacker at Princeton.
Ehrlich was the captain of the Princeton football team, and of course you just recounted what a great athlete Mike Bush was. Actually, the three of us went to the Harvard-Princeton game one year, that first term. So it was a great experience, and I guess I shouldn't have been surprised for the same reason that we know that participating in competitive athletics sharpens your competitive instincts, and those are the same instincts that get people elected and make you successful in politics or any line of business or profession.
It's interesting you say that. For the first time in a long time, there are no professional athletes in Congress. Do you think that if there were more like that, they'd be working together?
Well, I think that the problems in Congress are more fundamental than that. We really, unfortunately, have ended up with a system of political gerrymandering and sharp partisanship that drives people apart. So I think there are probably plenty of good people in Congress, but the system does not encourage them to come together and work together. It, in fact, encourages them to be divisive and partisan.
Now, in terms of your overall approach to academics and athletics, you have 2 Ivy League degrees. Do you agree with President Wallace Lowe of the University of Maryland when he said that the athletics department is the front porch of the university? It is now what reflects the university to the world, that it's the most prominent. It brands the university.
Well, I think he's been very focused on that. That decision to go to the Big Ten was a major decision. I do think that it is something that attracts students. It helps alumni bond. It encourages them to contribute. It is sort of part of the ambiance And I think the analogy with being the front porch is a pretty accurate one.
Did you hear from many of your constituents when Maryland left the ACC and joined the Big Ten?
No, I don't think that was a concern to the people that I represent. I think they probably felt that it was in President Lowe's hands and the Board of Trustees, and let them make the decision.
So let me ask you a question. Rarely do I get to interview someone who, with 2 Ivy League degrees, who is a great athlete too. Do you think the Ivy League should start to be more like Stanford and Duke, with having big-time sports, rather than, continuing to have, sort of these smaller sports, smaller stadiums, lesser revenues, not being able to go to bowl games and things like that? Do you think they should try to kick it up to Stanford? Last year, Stanford got 3 of the top 6 recruits in football. They outdid any Texas school. Harvard could draw just as well, so could Princeton, so could Yale. Do you think the Ivy should start to move up to the big leagues in sports?
Yeah, I don't think I'm all that attracted to big money in the college system. I mean, it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And
Harvard does have a $37 billion endowment, so you don't get much more big money than that.
They do have that advantage. That's true. And I don't begrudge any of the universities that want to pull in money from a good football program or a good basketball program, especially when it can help subsidize other sports that don't make money. I'm all for that, but I really I am somewhat ambivalent about the whole issue of money in sports. It's there, but I think the Ivy League sort of has their place, and there are a lot of colleges that aren't big-time colleges that still have athletic programs, and they are what they are. So I don't think every college necessarily has to drive for the money.
Now, last semester I taught at the University of Iowa, where there are no professional teams, and high school sports is very, very strong there. I think is a major result because of that. Do you see high school sports in Maryland being equally as strong, even though we have a number of professional teams?
Oh, I don't think that the professional teams detracts from the quality of the high school athletics. I mean, I think the quality of high school athletics is derived from the students. Mm-hmm. They are good because they are competitive. They are good because they have drive. And so the fact that we have the Ravens or we have the Redskins or we have other professional teams in the area, I don't think that detracts in any way from the high school teams that we have.
Have you seen the same level of community spirit behind the high school teams as when you were playing?
Well, I think the interest in high school teams depends on the local community. So, for example, I have Centennial High School, which has a great basketball program.
For a long time, yeah.
But dropped their football. It just wasn't there. They just didn't have the interest amongst the student body. They have some other very competitive teams, very, very excellent teams. So you sort of have to go with the community, what the families and community and kids in those communities are interested in, and build on that. So I think that's really the important key.
So what do you see as the future for sports in the state of Maryland? Do you think we will continue to try to keep growing, more professional teams, bring Maryland up to the bigger leagues in the Big Ten, winning that way? Do you see more support coming from the government, from the HBCUs? Or how do you see the government role for the future of sports in Maryland?
Well, again, I think the government's role is to promote education, to promote K through 12 education, to promote college and higher level education and the graduate school programs, to get kids on their way to earn a living and to have professions that they can be proud of and take and enjoy and support their families and get jobs. We want to We want to keep our talented kids in the state of Maryland.
We
want to
definitely
give them,
need that.
We want to give them opportunities here. We want to create jobs like Governor Hogan is doing. So I think the future of athletics is going to be related to that goal. So as long as athletics promotes education, promotes opportunity, and is part of a sort of holistic educational opportunity for our children, then it's going to thrive.
Let me ask you just one last question as we wrap up. Amazon has narrowed its list down to 20 places for its second headquarters. 3 of those are in the D.C. area, including Montgomery County, which is also going to include Howard County and other things too. It's part of the things. What would you say to Jeff Bezos to tell him to come to Maryland, come to the Maryland communities for that second headquarters?
Yeah, I would tell him, look, you want to have an even greater company. You want to attract talented people to come work for you. Talented people are going to thrive in Maryland. This is a place where you can come. You can come in your 20s and have a great experience, have lots of fun, but you can then go into your 30s, 40s, and 50s, and if you want to raise a family, your kids are going to have great education. They're going to grow up in a place they're proud to grow up in. So there is lots of opportunity in Maryland, and I think that there would be a great opportunity for Amazon to come here.
And here's part B of that question. What sporting event would you tell him to come to that would sell him when relocating to Maryland?
Well, it could be anything. Probably, I would find out the sport that he was most interested in.
He went to Princeton, so.
And I would take him to a great high school game.
I look forward to that. Thank you for your time, Bill.